If you have ever looked at your finances and thought, how did I get here? You're not alone. I'm retired with $62,000. Yes, $62,000 in debt and no savings. This is the honest beginning of my debt-free journey. When I retired, I thought I was done with stress, but seeing my numbers on paper told a different story. Today, I'm showing you exactly how I started facing it. One spreadsheet cell at a time, one tracker at a time. I'm sharing my real numbers, how I set up my first spreadsheet, and the honest emotions that come with facing debt in retirement. This isn't about shame, it's about finding peace and a path forward. If you've ever felt behind financially, I hope my story helps you feel a little less alone. I have a big happy planner. I'm not really sure why that's so boring looking, but in it I keep track of my budget, well, my YouTube stuff, my budget, my debt trackers, and the debt challenges, savings challenges that are too big to go in a smaller thing. So today's video is, well, I also have like my actual, planner information. Some months are filled out a little better than other months, and some of them are cuter than other months. Like, look at these dogs, aren't they cute? Well, anyway, so this is not all about debt trackers. This has got other things in this notebook. So let's see how I started with my debt tracking. The first thing I did was set up a spreadsheet because I needed to actually see in black and white where I was going and what was happening. And this is a printout of my actual spreadsheet, but obviously we can't read the figures on it. So I'm going to do a summary here so you can see the columns that I filled out. I'm doing this so it gets printed the long way because there'll be months after months. And I ordered everything in this order. First, the name of the debt. The next column was the payoff order. And it made this one number 1, this one number 3, and this one number 2, and I'll go over why. And then I put the interest rates. And I set up all my debts from the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. And I did that because I really wanted to keep track of where my biggest problems were, not just balance, but interest rate. And when I started adding all these interest rates, I was shocked. I mean, I guess I really didn't pay attention to how high some of these were. I mean, this TJ Maxx credit card, 33.9. Okay, so my battery died and I'm not quite sure exactly where I left off. So I'm going to, and I realized you can't really read that all that well. So I'm going to turn this around now. And let's see if I can get most of this in the screen. Maybe I have to cover that a little bit. Okay, I think it's all in the screen now. So as I was saying, I listed all of my debts, not alphabetically and not from smallest to largest, but I listed them from the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. So down at the bottom there's some debts with 0 interest rates, at least for a while. And then the next columns were the due date, so I could keep track of when the payments are getting posted, the minimum payment for each one, and then I went by month. Okay. This video is dealing with the figures between when I started keeping track closely in August until the beginning of September. And the order of these, my two highest interest rates were two Affirm payments. So one is really high, but the next one is also really high, but the debt on it was a lot lower. So I made this the first one to pay off. And then the TJ Maxx was also a little lower, but not much. And it was smaller than this first one. So these are ordered from interest rate, but I decided which order to pay them off based on a combination of Snowball and Avalanche. Snowball is you pay off your smallest debt, and whatever you're paying every month on that, you add to the next debt, so that payment gets a little bigger, and then so forth. The Snowball option allows you to see progress faster because you're actually getting some things paid off. The Avalanche method is you pick your highest interest rates and pay those off first, because in the long run, you're saving more money. But psychologically, it's difficult because maybe your highest interest rate has a balance of $4,000 and you've got other ones that are only a couple $100s. It's going to be more motivating if you can pay off some of the smaller ones so you have the fewer number of debts. But you will actually save money the best with the Avalanche method, paying off the highest interest rates. So with the way I set this up, I can see what the highest interest rates are, and then I can balance, the balance that's owed and the interest rate, and pick something that makes sense for the payoff order. And so in the first three of mine, the three of my smallest debts happen to be three of the highest interest rates. So I chose 1, 2, and 3, and they will stay in that order of highest interest rate to lower interest rate for about the first 6. And then I hit a debt that's pretty big. So I may take a few out of order after that, before I switch to a pure Snowball Avalanche hybrid. I may just switch to Snowball, because some of those that will be coming up after the first 6 have interest rates that hover right around 30%, but the balances range from $400 to $10,000. So I will be switching to a pure Snowball at some point. But for now, I'm just trying to get a lot of these smaller ones paid off that are at the highest interest rate. Down at the bottom, I have not paid off anything yet by the beginning of September, but I'm really close. And some of these down here, there's a couple small debts. Like there's a small balance for one of my doctor's offices, which the payment plan has no interest. And I don't have it up here because the regular payment plan is going to pay it off quickly. And I'll just leave it down here with the other 0%. So that is how I've set up my spreadsheet. I don't know if this will work for you, but I really like keeping track of these really high interest rates, because once I saw them on paper, they were really pretty frightening. And it was amazing how many of them are high like this before you start getting into like 29% and stuff. But I don't know, over 30% was really frightening. On these, I keep track of the due date because, let's see, so this one is due on the 10th. This one's due on the 7th. And this one's due on the 5th. This just helps me keep track of like where the payment schedule is in connection with the day of the month, the first of the month, and also gives me a double check that I've actually paid it for that month. So that's why this is here. The minimum payment I will end up using when I'm adding up in the next, one of the next trackers. And so I can add them together. So like this first one here is 38.21, 31.07, and 27. So these are the regular minimum payments. They're going to be odd numbers because they're Affirm loans. The credit cards are going to have something, a rounded number. And then I will keep track of the balance that's left on this date every month. So I don't have the figures for August, but on September 1st, these were the dollar amounts owed. And you can see why I'm paying this one off as number one, because it's going to get paid off really quick. I only owe $186. So, that one is going to be paid off the fastest. So I made that number one. I have some other columns that I initially set up on here, but I'm actually not using them. So I haven't listed them here because I didn't really find them useful. One was the account limit. One was what I listed as my regular payment, or what payment would pay it off in 3 years. And I don't really find those useful because with the snowball, they aren't really relevant. And I'm not planning on, renewing any of these debts once they're paid off. So, but you can put in whatever other columns are relevant for you that you want to keep track of here before you start the dates. So that is how I set up the spreadsheet. Now my next spreadsheet is really cute. Do not need this debt. I downloaded this from Crush Your Goals on Etsy, I think. Yes, Etsy. And, it's a black and white printout. If you don't keep track of yours in a full 8.5 by 11, you could always, print it smaller. And this, I started, each donut is worth $5 in debt reduction. My goal was to reduce the debt by end of year by $500. It's going down so quickly that this was probably a modest goal. But I started these numbers on August 1st. Between August 1st and September 1st, I had paid down rather. These are each worth 5, and there's 10 in a row. So that's 50, 100, and up to here is 25. I paid off 125 in debt. It actually was like 127 something, but I'm going to round down to the nearest 5. So that is the number for September 1st. And, even though I need things in black and white in the spreadsheet, I like being able to see this, color in every $5 difference, and see it visually represented in something pretty. So that's what this one is about. And I got to the 127, back on this tracker, this spreadsheet. At the end of each month, there is a line called total. And the total for August was $62,350.60. And the total for September was $62,232.94. So I got the 127 by subtracting this one from this one, and that was 127.66. So I rounded it down to 125. I'm not losing it. It'll be shown in the next month's figures. And that's the figure I used to color in my progress. Very fun, very fun. Okay, so on my next debt journey video, I'll have colored in however many donuts I need to represent the reduction in my total debt between September 1st and October 1st, whatever that figure ends up being. My next tracker is my debt snowball tracker. And I got this one from Etsy also. It came in a packet of different trackers. And I'm sorry, I don't remember whose it was, but you can find it. If you look on Etsy for debt snowball tracker, it tracks the top three at a time. This is the minimum payment. For Affirm, that's the regular monthly payment. This is the minimum payment for TJ Maxx and the minimum payment on this Affirm. These are the beginning balances in August. And then under here, we represent the payments that were made, okay? Now, I started doing savings challenges in August, but all of that money went towards Amazon because I needed to get a large bill paid before they started charging me interest on it while it was still 0% interest. So all of that money went on Amazon. Now, this one, the regular monthly payment on September 1st was $31.07, and the total went down to this. So these show the totals after the payment. This one, I don't know. I don't know what it was in August, I guess. So that's where it is September 1st. This was before I actually started using the snowball method, and so I had made a larger payment in September on the TJ Maxx, but going forward, I will do minimums on everything until I can start doing snowballs or have extra money from the savings challenges to pay something off. So this is our starting point. By the time we get to somewhere in here, we'll know how much, once it gets down to 0, we'll be able to add this $31.07 to the regular payment, minimum payment here of $27. And so then that minimum payment will go up to $58.07 at some point here. And then we'll take that $58.07 and add $38.21 to it. And then that's how much the payments will be here. I will also have additional payments showing up for my savings challenges in there. But this is how it's working. And this is also going to be nice. Next month, you'll be able to see it better once there's more payments. But, and you can print off as many of these as you need. I actually started this a couple of times and I kept making mistakes on the figures, so I threw those away. But this is where we are on this one. Now, I've got other trackers here that I haven't started using yet. This is the overviews showing. So I think this one would be good once, I get down to those debts that are thousands of dollars, because then it just shows you what they are, over the course of a year. But this tracker makes more sense because these early ones are all, pretty small. I also downloaded one additional tracker that does the math and everything for you, but I haven't started using it because I wanted to get rid of a lot of these small ones before I tried to populate that spreadsheet, automatic spreadsheet. The other thing I've got in here is, well, I have some other debt trackers. I guess they're not in here yet. But I wanted to start with the donuts because it was really cute. So that's where I am on my debt journey so far, how I set it up and where it's going. I know how hard it is to talk about money, especially when things don't look perfect. And mine is definitely not perfect. I mean, $62,000 in debt, retired, no savings, which is a very bad place to start your retirement. But that's why I'm sharing this, because we all deserve a fresh start and a little encouragement along the way. Please subscribe and watch my journeys. Maybe you'll get some motivation. And leave a comment if you're on your own debt journey. Have you already started it? Are you getting ready to start? Maybe you're finding some motivation on YouTube for starting your debt journey. I'd love to cheer you on and have the other subscribers cheer you on. So leave a comment about something you want to share about progress on your own debt journey. Maybe, a 1 month drop or the beginning date for your journey or something. Leave a comment so that other people can comment and cheer you on. We all need encouragement. Until next time, I think this is the only extra video this week. So my next video will be next Monday for Mini Monday Savings Challenge. And then the extra video I'll do next week is going to talk about my budget woes, because they're bad. They're really bad. But I am making progress on the debt, so I wanted to start with the debt, because it's a little more uplifting than my budget. So until next time, this is Terry saying thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.